All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about a term that gets thrown around a lot, maybe a little too much: OCD. We're going to really dig into the hardwired reality of what's actually happening inside the brain.
I mean, you've heard this a million times, right? Maybe you've even said it yourself. I'm so OCD about whatever. It's become this casual go-to phrase for just being organized or, particular about things.
And that right there, that's the core question we need to ask. Is liking a tidy desk the same thing as having a clinical disorder? Because when we use the term so loosely, we really risk blurring the lines and missing what's actually a debilitating condition for millions. Okay, so first things first, we have got to bust the biggest myth out there. This idea that OCD is just about washing your hands a lot or keeping your bookshelf color-coded. It is so much deeper than that. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? The myth is that it's just a personality quirk, that someone loves being organized. But the reality? It's a neurobiological condition. It has nothing to do with love or preference. It's about unwanted, intrusive thoughts that create just crippling anxiety. It's not a choice. So if it's not about loving organization, what is it about? Well, to get that, we have to look under the hood at the internal engine of the condition. People call it the OCD loop. The name itself actually tells you the two key parts of this engine. First, you've got the obsessions. These are the thoughts, they're uncontrollable, they're recurring, and they're really distressing. And then you have the compulsions. Those are the behaviors you feel driven to do to try and neutralize the thoughts. And this is how it becomes this vicious, relentless cycle. It all starts with the obsession. That random, intrusive thought just pops into your head. That thought triggers a massive spike in anxiety and fear. So to get rid of that awful feeling, you perform the compulsion, the ritual. And here's the really cruel part. It works. For a second, you feel relief. But that relief teaches your brain that the ritual was necessary, which just makes the whole loop stronger the next time around. It's a trap that reinforces itself. So that's the loop. We know it's happening, but the next question is, why? Why does this loop even exist in the first place? For that, we've got to go deeper and look at what's happening inside the brain itself. And this is without a doubt the most important thing to get. This is not a weakness. It is not a character flaw or a lack of willpower. It's a biological fact. It's all about the brain's wiring. From what we know, it seems like a couple of things are going on. For one, the brain seems to have pathways that are just sort of hardwired to get stuck in these loops. And then there are the brain's chemical messengers, the neurotransmitters. It looks like low levels of one in particular, serotonin, play a big role. You put that wiring and that chemistry together, and you've got the perfect storm for these awful, intrusive thoughts to take root. This is the best analogy I've ever heard for it. Think about a faulty fire alarm in your house. It just goes off randomly, screaming and blaring, even though there's no fire. There's no smoke. There's absolutely no danger. That is what the brain is doing in OCD. It's sending constant, high alert danger signals when there's nothing wrong. The compulsions are just a frantic attempt to shut off that alarm. But this is where the story pivots. Because if the problem is a faulty alarm, well, you don't have to be a slave to it forever. You can learn to recognize that it's a false alarm. And this is where we get to the hope in all this. This is the absolute key. It's the breakthrough concept. The goal isn't necessarily to stop the alarm from ever going off. It's about changing your reaction to it. It's about learning to hear that blaring noise and consciously choose not to run out of the building. And this is where treatments like behavioral therapy are such a game changer. What they do, essentially, is help you slowly and safely face those anxiety triggers without doing the compulsion. And over time, that repetition literally desensitizes the brain's anxiety response. You're teaching it, through action, that the alarm is false. You're recalibrating the system. So let's bring this all home. Let's really zero in on the main things to remember, the message of hope at the center of all this science. Look, here's the bottom line. OCD is it is a serious neurobiological condition. Full stop. It is not a funny quirk. It's not a preference for tidiness. But, and this is the most important part, the brain isn't static. It can change. It can be retrained. With the right therapies, that cycle can be broken. There is real, actionable hope. And that kind of leaves us with one final, bigger thought. In a way, the struggle with OCD is just a really intense version of a challenge we all face, learning how to tell the difference between a real warning from our brain and a false alarm. It really makes you wonder, right?
What could any of us do? What could we all achieve if we just got a little bit better at questioning our brain's anxious first draft of reality?